But
I like Fish.
That's okay. I don't shame anyone. I liked them, but I haven't heard any of their music since the 90s, I don't think.
Oh, well, maybe you need to start listening to it again.
Have they made new music?
Well, they released, I don't know if they're bootlegs, but there are a lot of live CDs out there. I don't know what they call it. It's not CDs. Well, I'm sure they still put CDs out, but live albums. We've gone back to calling them albums, even though they're streaming.
So they're not making new music?
Well, I mean, what it is they're doing live shows, and a lot of them, they have this fantastic remake of Stevie Wonder's Boogie on Reggae Woman that I absolutely love. I don't know when that's from, but no, I like listening to Fish.
So they're like the new Grateful Dead is what you're saying. They're just always playing live.
No, they're Fish.
But
I hate that when people say, "Oh, it's going to be the next," because they didn't the Grateful Dead didn't set out to be the Grateful Dead. It just happened. No. It's oh, well, it's going to be the next Woodstock. Well, Woodstock didn't know it was going to be Woodstock. It just happened. You can't be the next.
Well,
it's just a little bugaboo of mine. That's all.
Didn't the rest of the members of Grateful Dead continue touring, and they're called something else?
I think they're actually on their farewell tour, if I'm not mistaken. I read that somewhere.
What are they called? The Marching Bears? Something Bears? The Bugaboo Bears?
It's something like...
It's John Kelly's Bugaboo Bears.
It's like this long sentence, because I think there are so many legal issues. They can't call themselves the Grateful Dead, so it's the remnants of the sound of the feeling of the Grateful Dead or something like that. It's so,
Don't try to hide it. It's called John Kelly's Bugaboo Bears.
No, it's not.
It's Seti Bimco Part 2, The Revenge. The show where we create revenge sequels that nobody wanted. This time, I'll find you, and when I do, you'll find it's not fun to be found.
It's Seti Bimco Part 2, The Revenge. The show where we daydream about sequels to movies and sometimes failed pilots that no one wanted. And we always start the show by picking a wild card question.
Oh, that's right.
There's a number in a jar, and I'm going to pick it. John can see me picking it. It's not rigged, because we're going to ask who in this movie is most likely to. Let me open up my form here, because the number I picked is 22. So who in this show will be most likely to join Scientology? Okay. Interesting, because later we're going to watch a failed pilot that John picked. What's it called, John?
Heil, Honey, I'm Home.
Okay.
Yes.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So I thought maybe George was maybe negotiating his contract with Miss Lee. I can't even look Miss Lee in the eye because I can't make eye contact with her. She absolutely terrifies me. But apparently George got some backbone, and he's making some demands, and that's why he hasn't been here for a while. But
no, his camera's on.
I think that's what it is. No, she frightens me. I don't even discuss my contract with her.
I know.
I'm never going to tell. If I ever decide to leave the show, I'm never going to tell her. I'm just not going to show up one day.
Just gonna, like with your therapist, you just call in and say, "I'm curious."
Yeah, well, yeah. But I'm not as terrified of her as I am of 3-time Tony winner Patti LuPone. She absolutely terrifies me. She absolutely terrifies me. She just seems real mean. And she's been out promoting her new movie she's in, Beau is Afraid, with Joaquin Phoenix. It's Beau, I get it. I know why you're afraid, because she's so mean, Patti LuPone. I'm afraid if I looked at her wrong, I think it's that I don't know. I think she's got that Italian temper. And my best friend Larry, he's Italian.
But you can say
and I love him to death. He's been my best friend for 35 years, but I wouldn't turn my back on him, because they get mad at the littlest things. I don't know, you use the wrong pasta for the wrong sauce or something that.
I get mad about that. Jeez.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm just absolutely terrified of Miss Patti LuPone. Although I did have a terrifying fear of bats, but I kind of conquered that. I had to get a bat out of my mother's house about 12 years ago.
Ooh.
So maybe if I've overcome my fear of bats, I can overcome my fear of 3-time Tony winner Patti LuPone. Although when I confronted my fear of the bats, I had a broom nearby. I may not have a broom nearby if I meet Patti LuPone and have to conquer my fear. Because I mean, like, I can see the headline now, like, you know, like theater icon pummeled with broom by frustrated actor. And like I get on TMZ and I'm like beating her with a broom. Oh, Patti LuPone, oh, I'm terrified of you. But I'll be sure to plug the podcast. Watch Setty Bimco every Wednesday.
Please do that.
Listen to Setty Bimco every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcast, as the cops are dragging me out.
Patti LuPone and bats, they have a lot in common. They both sleep upside down. And
yes.
They're afraid to come out in the daytime.
She's absolutely terrifying. No, I'd like turn on my TV every so often this week. There'd be Patti LuPone. I'd be like, and I'd have to turn the channel real quick.
They both eat bugs.
They both eat bugs. They both sleep for 20 hours. You know, bats sleep for 20 hours. They're only awake for like 4 hours a day.
Just like George. His camera's on, but I see him there sleeping. Do you hear him snoring?
God, jeez. He sounds like a drunken sailor during Fleet Week. Don't ask me how I know that. But yes, he does.
You sent me another news story besides Patti LaBelle's what she has in common with bats. Is that a bit you want to do? Patti LaBelle and bats?
Actually, it's Patti LuPone. Patti LaBelle's the black singer. That's okay, Tim.
Oh, no, God.
That's all right.
I'd made a faux pas.
You made it. That's all right.
Patti, say her name again?
LuPone.
So did you have a list of ways she is like a bat?
No, I don't. I'm just terrified of her. I'm so terrified of her, I can't even think of her. No, I didn't have time. I'm not going to like spend that time thinking about something that terrifies me.
Did you have to get Patti LuPone out of your mom's house 12 years ago?
No, but okay. Well, there you go. If she shows up at my mom's house, at least I know where the broom is.
Right.
That's fine. I don't have to ask like a janitor. You know, like I run into Patti LaBelle or now you got me saying it. Say I run into Patti LuPone at like, I don't know, the Met Gala. And I'm going to have to like find a janitor like, hey, where's the broom closet? Why do you need a broom? Because Patti LuPone's out there. I mean, he's like, oh man, let me get you to the broom closet. She's scary. I'm like, I know, right?
Well, you also sent me a story about the fight over a guinea pig. Did you want to?
Yeah, that wasn't really as in-depth as I thought, but apparently in the Hudson Valley...
It was a very short story. I read it.
These two roommates, they got into like a physical altercation because they were fighting over, was it who would have custody of the guinea pig? I didn't quite get that. Like, who's guinea pig? It just wasn't clear.
One roommate was Richard Gere, though, so that explains a little bit.
Oh, as Richard Gere worked his way up to guinea pigs. Back in the day, you could only get a gerbil up there. Now he's up to guinea pigs. Wow.
My joke is only 30 years old.
He's come a long way.
My jokes are...
So he went from gerbil to hamster to guinea pig. Wow, that's impressive.
Poor guy. I feel bad.
Yeah, and before you ask, no, I have never...
I'm not asking anybody that.
Don't even ask, no.
What's he done since... Not that I'm complaining. Maybe he retired and he's happy, but I can't name a big movie since Pretty Woman.
Chicago.
Okay.
He did Chicago. He did some movie with Winona Ryder. She had like a heart condition. I can't remember. My ex-partner and I, we used to go to the movies every Saturday. Every Saturday we went to the movies. So like from 1998 to 2003, I saw like every movie that came out practically. And so we'd go to the matinee because it was only $5 to get in.
Right.
And if you bought the big tub of popcorn and the big soda, it was unlimited refills as long as you never left the movie theater.
You told me that.
So we'd buy our tickets for like the 1 o'clock show and the 3 o'clock show. And we just keep going. We each get our own big tub of popcorn and we each get our own soda.
Oh my God.
And we did that. We'd like spend 4.5 hours at the movie theater.
You told me this before, and I was very confused. I was like, that rule must exist because somebody took their popcorn outside, sold it, went back in and got a refill.
Or like somebody, so like they handed it off to a friend as they were leaving, or they came back 3 days later. Hey, I'd like a refill on my limitless popcorn. They're like, oh, well, that's only for when you're in the theater. Well, you didn't tell me that when you sold it to me. That's false advertising.
Well, yeah, the details in this roommate thing were very vague. It was very short.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Yours was much more interesting. The story you sent me about the toddler.
Oh, yeah. Curious. I'll read you the headline. A curious toddler on Tuesday earned the title of one of the tiniest White House intruders after he squeezed through the metal fencing on the north side of the executive mansion. Wow. This was the first dirty diaper on the grounds of the White House since Eric Trump was there. That's true.
It is true. It's funny because it's true.
Right.
I think that almost woke up George.
Almost.
I heard a snort. I did read another headline. This did you read about? There's nothing funny about it. In Spain, a Spanish athlete spent 500 days alone in a cave for science. So after spending almost a year and a half in near total isolation, some 230 feet underground, Beatrice Flamini emerged from her cave and asked, "Who's buying the beer?" There you go. So the experiment failed. She's still an alcoholic. I'm just saying.
She's still an alcoholic.
I'm not even making a joke.
Oh my God, she's still an alcoholic. That's terrible.
Ooh. So did anything happen to you this week?
I'm looking for, I've been out interviewing for jobs, and they've been going pretty well. And I'm just waiting for a couple of, one went really well this week. I think I got it. Okay. So I should know it by the beginning of next week.
I assume you end every interview and say, "So it's been nice talking to you. Check out my podcast, Steady Bimco," and then they never call you back.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, exactly. They hear the podcast. Well, here's the thing. What I'm always afraid of is because, in high school, when they told you when you did something was going on your permanent record,
right?
You skipped geometry class, it's going on your permanent record. So, my big fear is one of these interviews, they'll call me back and they're like, "Well, Mr. Kelly, your credentials were stellar. Your references were impeccable. You seem like you have a really good work ethic, but these incidents with geometry back in 10th grade, we just can't overlook that. So I'm sorry, we cannot offer you the position."
That and your fear of Patty LeBeau.
Patty LeBeau, yeah.
LeBeau and Patty LeBeau.
So it's yeah. So what's the job? Oh, we do merch with pictures of Patty LeBeau on it. Ah! Should have read that fine print. She just frightens me.
George, are you awake yet?
Yeah, get him up. Gee whiz. This is very rude of George. He has got to be breaking his contract.
Well, that's it to happen with you. Okay. You usually have amazing things going on.
Not really a heck of a lot going on. Just, kind of same old. I'm not going to talk about the weather. One day it's 80, one day it's 40.
I always put out the weather talk.
Well, welcome to. No, it's just I almost did. I almost didn't make it on time tonight, and it's not like I went anywhere. I was here. But my mother went down. She had to go down to Sarah today.
Okay.
And she always picks me up a quarter garlic pizza from Sopranos. And I love the eggplant sub, but she insists on giving me the chicken cordon bleu sub. She's like, "Well, the chicken cordon bleu is better." I'm like, "Well, you think the chicken cordon bleu is better."
Yes.
But I can't say that because then I appear Griffin. The chicken cordon bleu is great, but I really like the eggplant sub. So it's so she calls at about 6:15. "Okay, I'm bringing it over to your place." I'm like, "No, really, you can wait till." And she's like, "Oh, well, so are you doing the podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to be doing it in about 40 minutes. And then I went to take my trash out to the dumpster, and then a neighbor stops me. And I don't like small talk. I'm not but I don't want to be that guy. "Look, I can't talk to you. I got to get in my apartment."
You got to record your podcast. That's what you say.
Have
you heard my podcast? I got to get back into my house and record it.
Yeah, really.
You should say that every time you see them. "Sorry, I can't talk. I got to record my podcast."
We're very popular in Australia.
I'm recording every night.
Yeah, I just record.
I have a whole podcast about Patty LeBeau and how I'm afraid of her.
From sunrise to sunset. Why Patty LeBeau?
So you picked this pilot that failed. So tell us what it's about, John. What is this about?
Okay, well, this is a pilot. As I said, it's called, I'm just getting my notes in right here. "Heil, honey, I'm home."
Okay, what could
It
that be about?
broadcast on Galaxy, which was like a satellite cable channel in the UK. And it aired on September 30th, 1990. And I really there's like really nobody famous in it.
The writer.
A couple of them have credits, like one of them had like a small part on Doctor Who, the Jodie Whittaker Doctor. He played it was the guy who played Arnie Goldstein, Gareth. He was police officer. I can't even read my own handwriting. Warren, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, give us a synopsis of this show.
Oh, okay. Well, sure. Well, I mean, basically, you can't give too much of a synopsis without giving away the plot. But the idea is that Ava Braun and Adolf Hitler live in an apartment in Berlin in 1938. And they live next door to a Jewish couple named Arnie and Rosa Goldenstein.
Yeah.
And basically, it's hilarious, right? So far. Okay, so let me preface this by saying, okay, there have been some very funny, satirical, even though he was a horrible, horrible, horrible man. Mr. Adolf Hitler. Today is his birthday, by the way. Yeah. Today's his birthday. Tomorrow's Tim's. Mm-hmm. This is where Tim has his love of Hitler, because they're both Taurus. You're both Taurus. You know that?
We are.
Yes, you are.
I make fun of him. I don't love him.
Yes. Well, no. I mean, no. You're. There's something going on there. A Taurus and Taurus love connection may be solid and trustworthy, but not exceptionally interesting. They share a need for discipline, menial jobs, and homemaking, but they lack enthusiasm, originality, and variety.
Are you reading the horoscope?
Yeah, this is why you and Hitler get along so well.
In Catholic school, they told us that was evil, and we should not read that. So.
Yeah, well.
Well.
They also told us not to masturbate. Guess what?
That's evil.
Anyway, it was, there have been some, as I said, there have been some very funny satirical looks at Hitler. I mean, you think of like
the
Charlie Chaplin's
election. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Huh?
The 2016 election. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That was a laugh riot.
Sorry.
But I was thinking more like fictional, like, Jojo Rabbit just came out a few years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's his name? Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. He played Hitler in it.
Yes, he did.
The Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin, which was his first full sound movie. He played a take on Hitler. So, like what I was reading in this, and one was even like a Jewish website, and it wasn't so much that they didn't have an issue with the satirization of Hitler, because that's been done pretty successfully. They said what this show lacked is it was kind of more making fun of 1950s American sitcoms.
Yeah, I read that too.
And kind of lost the satirization of Hitler. So basically, long story short, they wrote 11 scripts for it. 8 got recorded, 8 got taped. Only 1 got broadcast.
Right.
Because they were like, oh, no, we can't. Although I got reading somewhere where this galaxy got taken over by Rupert Murdoch's Sky. Oh. And Rupert Murdoch was just like, well, not that he was offended by the Hitler thing, but he's just like, no, that's just not the way I want to go. I want to do more sports and entertainment.
Right.
So, yeah. Right. So they say that was part of the reason why it didn't continue. But, a lot of people say, the most tasteless sitcom ever made.
I like, you forgot Mel Gibson's portrayal of Hitler on those tapes recorded when he would call his wife.
Yeah, that was a laugh riot too. That was right up there with the 2016 election. Don't get me going. I'm still peeing my pants over that one. But
so I would say this show was like a SNL skit sketch that just went on too long.
Yeah, it didn't need to be made.
It would have been a funny Saturday Night Live sketch. I think that's about it, or not funny.
Yeah, and they don't like speak with German accents. They speak with like American 1950s sitcom accents. It's kind of like the Honeymooners meet I Love Lucy.
It wasn't British accent?
No, they didn't do British accents. They were done by British actors, but they did them in American accents. You didn't notice that? Did you really watch this, Tim?
I did.
Okay.
I watched
All right, if you say so.
He was talking about how he hates Eva Braun's mother. Was there a joke there besides just? I mean, were they doing historical stuff? They weren't.
No, not really. The only thing they were doing was the 1938, like the Munich Agreement, which was supposed to be the non-proliferation.
Because Neville Chamberlain was
a time of peace or something was the heading on it.
Yeah.
And so basically it opens up with her, "Heil, honey, I'm home," and she's like, "Well, it's about time. Every night this week you've been late for dinner." And she takes the lid off the pan, and he's like, "What's tonight? Schnitzel night? Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, honey." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well," he's like, "Well, I got to tell you, I got to." Tomorrow night, Neville Chamberlain's coming over for dinner. She's like, "You're inviting the Prime Minister of Britain and you're only giving me one night. How am I going to defrost anything out of the icebox?"
Yeah. So I would say, the plot and the jokes were just like purposely bad, maybe.
Yeah, they just fell short. I mean, they just didn't hit. It just didn't land.
I can't really remember a joke. They were just
They're just kind of mugging for the camera.
They had the Goldensteins had a niece, Ruth, and she was very sad and that was a joke.
Yeah, very dour. And I didn't get that swinging kitchen door. Did that just go into the Goldensteins' apartment? It was just because they'd walk in and out of there.
Yeah, much like I Love Lucy, where they would just come in the back door all the time.
Yeah, I guess they just come in the back door. But then, I don't know, maybe they're back. I don't know. I was trying to figure out the layout here because when they come out their front door, they come in the other direction. I don't know. I don't get it.
They had a giant apartment, just like Friends. It was too big. They couldn't afford that in Berlin in 1938. Yeah. Totally unrealistic.
Yeah, exactly. Working as a barista, Ava. Come on, you couldn't make that. You couldn't make that. You couldn't make that money.
Cass is totally white.
Do you know there's a housing shortage in Berlin? There is no way you could have afforded that.
I did look. The YouTube did show me extra things. They showed me scenes from the episodes that weren't aired. Did you get any of those?
Oh, I didn't get that far. No.
They showed a scene with Arnie and Hitler had to sleep on the couch one night for some reason, and the jokes were
just terrible.
Arnie was looking under the blankets for something, and then they both stop. Oh, he had a jar of pickles in bed, and he drops some pickles, and he's searching around, and they both stop and give that look, and Hitler says, "That's not a pickle, Arnie." I was like, these jokes are so bad.
They were really bad. Sometimes you laugh at them just to spite yourself. So basically then, so Hitler's telling Ava, don't let the Goldensteins know that Chamberlain's coming over, because remember when the Mussolinis came, we couldn't get rid of them.
Right.
So basically, the next morning, Adolf's getting ready to go to work for well, honey, I'm off to the Reichsstadt.
Yes.
And I don't know, Arnie comes in and goes, "Hey, I need a ride. Oh, hey, I need a ride to work. And don't worry, I'll pay for the gas, blah, 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 blah." And then Rosa comes over and says, she's like, "Oh, hey, Ava." And she's like, "Oh, hey, hon," they're best friends.
Yes.
And she's like,
just like Lucy and
"What would you serve for the most important man in Europe? Do you think he'd like my meatloaf?" And she's looking through her cookbook. And then they're sitting down to coffee. She's like, "Well, I can't tell you who's coming And then Rosa says, but maybe if I guessed it.
Yeah.
And they're like, sounds like, and Ava Braun is doing charades. She puts these little horns with her fingers. And she's like, sounds like bison, bull, sitting bull. The Indians are coming.
Well, jeez. I don't even remember that.
And then finally she takes out the two bananas and she's like, devil, sounds like devil, bevel, hevel, Neville. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Neville Chamberlain. And she's like, yes. And they're like, but I have to swear you to secrecy. You can't tell anything. And then she does like the Hitler salute and says, you must swear you will never tell anything. And then Rosa returns the Hitler salute, like a Jew would be doing that in 1938 Berlin. And it was just really, really tasteless.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I hear, is George stirring?
I don't know. Was that a snore?
I should call him. Anyway. Anyway.
And
then there was that was it. Yeah, there was nobody else coming around.
Yeah. And then finally in the end, so they're getting ready for Chamberlain to come over, and Arnie's carrying a pot of tea and Rose is carrying this tray of homemade buns she's made, and they knock on the door and they come in and she's like, I brought Chelsea buns or whatever she called them. So he'd feel at home. And Hitler's like, well, who would feel it? She's like, well, Neville Chamberlain, of course. And she's like, who told you? And she's like, nobody told me. So he takes Ava in the kitchen. She's like, she must have figured it out on her own. So they go back into the living room and they're like, oh, did you have a glass against the wall, Rosa? And she's like, yes, I did. That's how I found out. So then Ava gets the bright idea to give him schnapps and get him drunk. The only thing is they get so drunk that they don't leave. And then Chamberlain shows up, and Rose is trying to fix him up with Ruth, her niece or sister, whoever she is. I don't know. They never did explain her relationship.
Niece, I believe, and I think he's interested. So,
yeah, because they do wind up going out to dinner in the end. So basically, long story short, the wackiness ensues, and they have this conga line, and Chamberlain's in the back, and
they get stupid drunk, which is never funny.
Drunk, and Hitler's supposed to sign the peace agreement, and he puts it in the ice box. And then later, Arnie comes out drunk and goes, hey, Adolf, while I was getting this out of the icebox, I saw this. And they're trying to read it, and they're reading it wrong because they're drunk and it's wet. And then finally, Chamberlain says...
Wait, it got wet? How'd it get wet?
Because it was in the icebox.
Are you sure? Anyway.
Yeah, that's what they said. And so basically... Chamberlain's like, oh, you're naughty, and that was supposed to be it was more kind of supposed to be ripping on Chamberlain because Chamberlain didn't do anything to stop Hitler.
Yeah, he wanted to be friends.
Yeah. So basically, eventually, Hitler signs it, and he goes and he takes Ruth off to dinner, and it was just a really, really, really bad pilot.
Neville Chamberlain, he was a big fan of Mel Gibson's movies.
He was.
Yes.
He really
especially that one with Jodie Foster.
Yes.
The name of that one. What was that one?
The Beaver?
A beaver. Why did she do that with him? That was after he was on the phone abusing his wife.
It came out after. Maybe they had filmed it, and then he had the... Because it takes about a year or two for those things to come out.
Neville Chamberlain. That was one of his favorite movies.
It was one of his favorite movies. It was The Beaver... the
one
Mary Poppins, and
it was Mary Poppins, the animated
Mary Poppins
with the
Sound of Music, and the Sound of Music. But he'd sit there all the time going, "Oh, if only I'd stopped those Nazis when I had the chance." Did
you hear the announcer when the show ended?
No, I don't know if I did,
because this was taped off TV, and the announcer. Because if you watch what I watched at the beginning, it was like Dad's Army, and he's like, up next. After Dad's Army, we're going to...
Yeah, so-and-so had met up with a man.
Heil Hitler. And at the end, he goes, well, a little political there.
Yeah, that's right, a little political. I did hear that.
Up next, the Benny Hill Show.
Yeah. Did you see the animated, like after the
Yes,
starting
I
with
saw
the
that.
second episode, there's going to be an animated. It does look a lot like the Bewitched
It does.
animated montage, and somebody else is going to be playing Ava Braun,
Oh,
like that Danica Freeman, is that her name?
God, I don't remember. I didn't recognize anybody.
She was replaced by Maria Friedman, and she was playing Ava in the rest of the episodes.
Patti LuPone was originally going to play that part,
But she was too scary,
For
too
you.
realistic.
They reached out.
It's like we wanted it. Like you're almost too convincing as a Nazi stormtrooper, Miss Patti LuPone. Children were crying, and no, it was just they couldn't. She just frightened everybody. She couldn't do it.
I know you don't know
hit her
your.
with a broom.
Yes, I did.
She walked off the set. I'll never work in this town again.
You don't know your comic book history, but that's how Batman came to be. Patti LuPone flew through his window. He said, "Scary. I shall assume the form of a scary creature of the night." We all know you love Batman.
I liked it the first 3 times they rebooted it, but
They're working on the next
after
one.
a while, it's like it's the same story. Really, it's the same story.
Oh.
I know. It's like the Spider-Man movies. Like, how many more of those do we
In the
need?
comics, Batman's son is now Robin. I don't know if you know how far things have come.
No, I don't.
Batman's son is Robin.
Is never now Robin.
How old do you feel now?
Because now Robin is Nightwing, right?
Yes. You know something.
I do know something.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course, wasn't that back in the 80s?
We're trying to wake up George. I see him stirring. Here's some stuff.
Yeah, we'll see
Here's
what
us mention comic books. What else do we have to mention? Werewolves.
Yeah, I hope he picks a werewolf movie next week.
Well,
By the way, because this show was all about wacky neighbors, right? Basically,
Yeah.
I mean, besides being about Hitler. So I wrote down a few famous neighbors. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I indulged in 420. Okay, let's see. Let me get through this. I'll cut them out if you don't laugh, or if George doesn't wake up. So Serena Williams, she once lived above the third biggest villain of the 20th century, Mel Gibson. And she would play tennis in her apartment, hit the ball around and make a lot of noise.
Mm-hmm.
And Mel Gibson would pound on the ceiling and yell, "Stop it with that racket. Stop with the racket." Get it?
Got it.
And then he would say, "What is it with you Jews controlling everything?" And she'd be, "Mel, I'm not Jewish." All right. I'm going to talk about Mel Gibson a lot. So Mel Gibson, he once lived next door to Woody Allen, and he would call up Woody Allen on the phone all the time and yell about how you Jews control everything, and how you look like a whore, and he'd shout abusive stuff at him all hours of the night. And then Mel eventually realized he had the wrong number. He meant to call his wife.
all right.
So he apologized to Woody.
Hey, you.
Okay, that one didn't. I hear George stirring. Did he laugh? Did I hear George laugh?
I don't know. Is that him in the car? Can you find a parking? Just double park, George. Stop beeping the horn.
Ed Gein. You know who Ed Gein is, right?
I do know who Ed Gein is.
Ed Gein, famous serial killer, the original. He lived downstairs from Mina Miller Edison, the wife of Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
So Thomas Edison, he was out all the time. He was out inventing stuff and electrocuting elephants. He did that, right? He electrocuted an elephant to prove he was better than Nikola Tesla. Anyway, another story for another time. But Edison was always out doing these things. And he did create many lamps with long-lasting light bulbs for Mina to read by, but he didn't make her any lampshades. Thus, her kindly neighbor, Ed Gein, made her a lampshade. Literally, he made her into a lampshade.
Or made her into a lampshade?
Yeah, literally, he made her into a lampshade.
Well, isn't that neighborly?
Yes.
All right.
And finally, most famous neighbors, Abbott and Costello. So Costello would come over to Abbott's apartment for dinner. Well, he did one time because they weren't getting along at the end of their career. I don't know if you know that.
Right.
I'm talking about, if you're a young listener, Abbott and Costello, famous comedians who didn't get along at the end of their career. So Abbott, he lived on the first floor of an apartment building. And when they sat down to dinner after Costello came over, they were interrupted by all this terrible noise upstairs. And Costello asked, "Who is making all that noise up in number 2? And Abbott would say, "That's right." And Keller would say, "What?" And Abbott would say, "Who is making all that noise?" And Costello would say, "No, what are you talking about? I'm asking you who is making all that noise." And Abbott would say, yeah, who is making all that noise?" And Costello would say, "What are you talking about?" And Costello would say, "Oh, what? What are you talking about? Lives up in apartment number 3. And Costello would say, "I'm not asking about number 3. I'm asking who is making all that noise number 2. And anyways, Costello would eventually throw the table over on the floor, and he left, and they never talked again.
Oh, wow. Is that, see, you never know. You never know.
Oh, I have an extra one. There's this guy named John Kelly once. He lived next door to a guy who tried to befriend him after he had murdered his other best friend.
Oh, Jesus.
So I don't know if you heard about that.
Oh, my God. This is hitting a little too close to home.
Sorry. I shouldn't joke about that.
Cut that part out.
Is that too soon?
Wow.
Too soon, man. Too soon.
Too soon. So how about I guess revenge time.
Yeah, let's do revenge.
Wherever you are, wherever you're hiding, I'll find you. I'll get you. I'll get you.
Revenge.
I'll get you.
Revenge.
Revenge. One of us will die. One of us will die.
I will not let Cindy take my place.
I will have my revenge.
So, who from this little short film is most likely to join Scientology? Lately, we've been doing these together. So, I don't know if you have a name to shout out, or you want me to shout out a name. We have Hitler. We have
Ruth.
the neighbor.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, Ruth. Oh my God, you're right. Ruth, who was
Ruth
very
would be,
depressed.
I mean, she's perfect. She's like perfect fodder for Scientology. She's unsure of herself. She doesn't date. She doesn't have any
She's very quiet.
social life. She's come to Berlin, a strange city. Oh, the Scientologists will snatch her right up.
No, I think she's so quiet and sad that they will put her in a box and smuggle her out of Berlin so she survives.
Right.
And she's so happy she survived that she meets up with L. Ron Hubbard in America.
Mm-hmm.
Becomes one of his girls.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had a whole thing, I don't have time to go into that. And she joins right up with Scientology with L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Is on the boat. What's their boat? They had a boat. They still have
the
a boat.
SSS the Lusitania, wasn't it?
No, I don't think so.
The Titanic?
It's got a weird name. Scientology has a ship.
Yeah, no, I have heard the name of the ship. I can't think of what it's called now. Oh, but I think it is like an old British warship, though.
Oh, yeah.
The HMS something. Yeah. I can't think of it off the top of my head, though.
Ruth becomes a very famous member, and I think Tom Cruise owns her ashes.
Well, it all comes together now.
It's, Ruth's ashes. She died eventually, a peaceful death. How'd she die, John? You remember, she was driving down the highway, but it was a peaceful death.
She had a peaceful, easy feeling.
Yes, she was listening to the Eagles. Was that the Eagles?
Yeah.
And she pulled over
She was
to
running down the road down in Tucson, Arizona.
She drove by this police guard, pulled over a guy who looked just like Mel Gibson, and he was going on a rant about hating the Jews. And she's like, "Oh, I hate these people still."
Yeah. Thank goodness I joined Scientology, so I'm not offended by that anymore.
But how'd she die, John? Peacefully in her sleep?
Peacefully in her sleep.
That night after seeing Mel Gibson. That ruined her whole day. You say it didn't bother her, but I think it did bother her.
Yeah, she didn't die happy. I didn't say she died. You just asked if she died peacefully. You didn't ask if she died happily.
Her thetans were still affecting her.
Still
you
affecting.
Seem to be. Are you okay? Are you okay making fun of Scientology? You look.
Oh
brilliant.
yeah, I'm very offended. I'm very, very offended. How dare you?
I mentioned the Catholic Church. You go to town. Scientology, you're being quiet.
Maybe I don't have as a wealth of a knowledge as I have with Catholicism. Maybe that's why.
Oh my God, it's 8:20. Let's do your story before.
Let's do your story first.
You want me to do it? Okay.
You go first this week.
Hope you can hear it through George's snoring.
Okay.
So my sequel. I'm going to say my sequel takes place in a unnamed time unnamed time and place because the sitcom seemed very silly. I know it was in Berlin, but it didn't take place in a real, it was a fictional setting. Okay?
Yeah. I feel like it is.
So after the failure of that show, they tried another show in the same building. I'm going to say that was the top floor they lived in. It looked like the nice penthouse apartment.
Yeah, probably. I'll give you that.
This is the same building. And in this building, on this top floor, now was living the Osmond family. They were big and popular in Berlin, and they lived in the top floor. They lived right above Hootie and the Blowfish. They lived below them. And below Hootie and the Blowfish lived Fish. And living below Fish lived the Christian band that John turned me on to, Hootie and the Loaves and Fishes. Credit to John. But in the basement apartment, that's where Hitler lived. Because of the whole trying to take over the world thing, he had to live in the basement apartment. He can't get a nice penthouse apartment, and he needs a roommate. And he lives in the basement, and he shares this room with none other than Kid Rock. Kid Rock and Hitler don't like this, odd Mormon cult family living in their building. But as I said, the Osmonds have a big following in Germany, so they're very hard to kick out, without becoming, they don't want to kick them out and become the ire of the German public again.
Right.
Hitler doesn't. Thus, this is a revenge sitcom. Hitler's going to get revenge on the Osmonds. So just to set it up a little bit, on the show, the Osmonds often go out on wacky adventures with Hootie and the Loaves and Fishes. In their most famous episode, Loaves and Fishes and the Osmonds end up at Oktoberfest. You see, Donnie misread the ad and thought it said October feet. You see, Donnie Osmond loves 2 feet. Not 1 foot or 3 feet, but 2 feet. And once they're at Oktoberfest, he sees it involves a lot of drinking of a lot of beer, which, as Mormons, if you don't know, they don't drink. I don't think they even drink coffee, but...
No, I don't think you can drink caffeine.
So, of course, through a wacky set of circumstances involving 5 feet, Donnie accidentally drinks 7 or 8 mugs of beer, gets very drunk, and Donnie gets so tipsy he tumbles over a table of schnitzel, falling 3 feet to the floor, which causes Donnie to exclaim, "Oh no, not 3 feet." And at this point, Marie, she's there too, she'd say her famous catchphrase, "Oh, Donnie, you forgot to wear your temple garments again." I think I hear George laughing. As for Hitler taking revenge on the Osmonds, he turned to more scientific and genetic research to get his revenge on them, while Kid Rock worked on his next album called Let's Make America Rock Again. Hitler dreams up a scam to make everyone in the building believe there's a virus going around called COVID, and then he will create a very healthy soup for the Osmonds, as they are Mormon and they would not want to take the vaccine. This soup has an undetectable poison which Hitler created, and it will destroy their singing voices and thus their careers. They will have to move out of that fancy penthouse apartment. But first, even though he likes his roommate Kid Rock, he tests out the poison on him. He gives him the soup. Kid Rock eats the soup and seems to be fine until the next morning when Hitler finds that Kid Rock has shrunk to the size of a doll, causing Hitler to exclaim, "Heil, honey, I have shrunk the kid." That's my long walk.
There you go.
And he fails on getting revenge on the Osmonds. Okay. I hear George laughing.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay.
Okay, well, my revenge sequel involves Ava Braun. Because, worst wedding in the world.
Right.
It's like when, I see brides complaining about, how their wedding was going at the end. Not often, but every once in a while they get a little bridezilla-y. Yeah, and I just want to say to them, yeah, but your wedding's not going to be worse than Ava Braun's. So Ava, not only, was it a kind of a low-key event? Can we call their wedding a low-key event? She had to make the buffet, so she made her meatloaf. Then, she did have Rosa make the Chelsea buns, and then Hitler takes a cyanide pill and dies, like after they say "I do." Everybody thinks that Ava died with him, but she didn't. She and Rosa run off to Argentina, and they get an apartment in Buenos Aires, but because they're kind of short on cash, they got to get another roommate. So they get a roommate named Lupe, played by 70s musical icon Charo.
Well, it all comes together.
And yeah, so the name of this sequel is Coochie Coochie, Honey, I'm Home. And it's just all the wackiness. And unfortunately, their landlady is Miss Evita Peron.
Oh, no.
Yes, who was First Lady of Argentina. She's their roommate, and she's always coming over. And, of course, the role on Broadway was originated by the terrifying three-time Tony Award winner Patti LuPone.
You're bringing it back.
Yes. And so it's just all about the wackiness that ensues. And then Patti LuPone as Ava Peron shows up and terrifies everybody, which is more terrifying than Hitler could ever be. And it only lasted 2 episodes. But yes, the title was Coochie Coochie, Honey, I'm Home.
Wow.
The end.
How funny you made them have roommates with a musician like I did.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk it?
You know what's sad about Charo?
Do you want the whole list or just her son's hot? Ooh. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's sad that in the 70s, she'd be on TV, and every show she's on, she's like coochie coochie and shakes her body, shakes her butt, shakes her boobs. And that was all she was. But I saw an old film of her playing guitar in a show, and I'm like, she was a really skilled guitar player and singer.
She's a fantastic musician.
And I'm like, oh, this is what you had to do on TV probably to get on the show.
I think it's a lot like, I think she had like a career similar to Buddy Hackett's. Like, I think she did kind of more like the live shows in Vegas.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah,
well,
so she could show her music. Apparently she made a lot of money.
I'm sure.
And she, I think that's where she did. And like we'd see her on Max, like Mike Douglas going, Juno, I sometimes think that. And she's like saying something like you couldn't understand. Again, not making fun of her accent, but it's just like, and she kind of be like this airheaded kind of, and you just laugh at how she pronounced. Carol Burnett used to do a fantastic imitation of her.
Yeah.
Juno, she's like coming, cushy, woo, 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 woo. And then she'd sit down and get really serious and go, Juno, I sometimes wonder if.
I can't do that. Juno, I'm not going to make fun of her accent. I just wonder if she did that, if she kept it that way because she knew that's what people wanted to hear too. That's all.
You know what? She probably made a lot of money in Vegas.
Buddy Hackett did the same accent. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Buddy Hackett would come on a show and be like,
he started going, Juno.
And then he'd take off all his clothes.
So then she'd do like something like, I don't know, Hollywood Squares to kind of keep her name and face on TV. So people would keep coming. She'd do like episodes of The Love Boat or Fantasy Island, just enough to like keep her in front of the TV cameras, and then people would like be like, "Oh, Charo's playing in Vegas. Let's go see her."
I never said that. Of course, I was a little kid.
I've never been to Vegas.
Is she alive? She's still alive?
She's still alive. Yeah.
And is her son an actor? Why have you seen him? Have you just seen him with her?
He's done some acting. He's very attractive.
Okay. Well.
Anyway.
I think George is waking up. I see him staring.
Is he staring?
His camera's on. I see He-Man figures falling down. And
oh, no. It's all that snoring.
He's going to the bathroom.
Oh, guys. I just woke. I was having the weirdest dream.
Oh, boy.
Well, we heard the snoring.
Fucking sitcom called Heil, Honey, I'm Home. I'm like, this couldn't possibly really exist, especially not in the year of our Lord, 1990. And then here I am, and I'm ready to talk about it. So let's get the show started, huh?
Sorry, George.
What do you mean? What?
Well, gosh, we've kind of that as they say, New York Times bestselling author George O'Connor, that ship has sailed.
As
We
Scientology
basically
says,
said everything there was to say about Heil, Honey, I'm Home. And let me tell you, it wasn't that much.
You know,
That's,
I gotta say, I'm pretty bummed because I did watch it,
I'm
and I feel like I'm now unclean. Something was lost. Can I add one? Did you discuss this thing was British, right?
Yes.
yeah.
But everyone spoke with an American accent.
Well, they're good actors over there, George.
Yes.
There's
No,
a
I
few
think
of
it was a
them.
weird psyop. I think they're trying to blame this on us.
Yeah. Well, they're still bitter for us waiting until like 2 years in to get into it is what, like, they're still like, it was like two and a half years until we finally, got in after the Japanese bombed us. And I think they're still bitter about that.
They're
I'm
mad
not
that
sure they understand their
that we
history
call,
very well.
They're mad that we call biscuits cookies.
I mean,
They're
I'm
mad
mad that they call elevators lifts.
They're mad that
Let's
we
just trade
call
back and forth.
chips French fries.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. I'm
They're
mad
mad-
they call lorries taxis. Wait, I mixed that up.
No, they call trucks lorries. They call hoods
Damn
bonnets.
Yeah, that's stupid too.
Mad that we
They
give
say
a-
garage and aluminum instead of
Yeah,
aluminum.
but it's outrageous.
And
So
Dennis
really, you all
Bennett-
talked about? I missed the whole thing because I fell asleep because it was like a weird fever dream.
Well,
Because it's 420.
This
Yep.
is you missed it. I think that might be kind of pushing it. That might be kind of going over the edge. I don't know what you missed, but yes, it is over. It is over.
You sleep laugh.
Well,
You sleep laugh to my Kid Rock joke.
oh, that's. I mean, Kid Rock is inherently humorous, so of course I would.
And you got upset when I told John the origin of Batman. It's when Patty LaBelle flew through his window and scared
Patty
him.
LaPone.
Yeah, I see why I'm.
Patty
I
LaPone.
don't even get it.
Not Patty
Either one.
LaBelle. Patty LaPone.
Patty LaPone. Patty LaPone's very scary, and she flew through Bruce Wayne's window.
So is
Bruce
he really
Wayne-
saying Batman this whole time, and everybody just assumes he's Batman? They
Yes.
just don't. Okay, good joke, Tim.
John's very afraid of it. You missed it.
So it's good I'm here, though.
You're here
even
just
though
in time to tell us. What? What are you going to tell us?
what the movie is for next week.
Oh,
Okay.
I hope it's about werewolves.
Well, actually, you know what?
gonna
I need
trick
to
us.
make sure I have the title exactly right.
It's going to be about Sasquatch.
Well, it's funny you say that because, as you know, I've chosen movies about Sasquatches. I've chosen movies about werewolves. One might say it's a little bit of a thing for me. So the movie that we're doing next week is the movie. The movie we're going to watch is available on Tubi, and it is called. It's from 1975, past that cross line of everything sucking in the 60s.
Yeah.
The Werewolf and the Yeti.
The werewolf
Ooh.
and the
I
Eddie.
pointed this one out to you. Yep.
You have pointed this one out for me before. This was very nearly a movie choice I already chose, but due to our surging popularity down under, I chose originally Howling 3, The Marsupials. But now we're going to combine my twin passions of mythical hominids and lycanthropes into one movie that looks like it's a pile of festering shit called The Werewolf and the Yeti. It looks garbage. I'm sorry to report it is an hour and 25. I think we could all be forgiven if we cut out about 15 minutes and we're watching.
Well, I'll sleep through a little of it.
Yeah, I'll sleep through maybe the entire episode again. Who knows? I clearly have narcolepsy. It's just the beginning of the health problems.
I'll be looking up.
I'm getting up there in age. It's all beginning to happen for me.
Okay, what comes up for me is in Spanish. Apparently, the name of the movie is La Maldición de la Bestia.
Nice. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the other thing. It's dubbed. So you're welcome.
John's always got
It
brag.
is a
film.
1975 Spanish horror film. Oh. No.
It's gonna be
Hey, George.
trash.
Yeah, it's going to be trash.
Wow. Maybe Charo's in it. No,
I hope so.
Never mind.
Maybe Mel Gibson will be.
Mel Gibson.
Why not? Mel Gibson, Charo.
Mel
We're
Gibson.
talking
great
about all the
days,
things
Nancy.
you missed while you were sleeping.
Maybe I'll sleep
Gibson.
through that episode too. Who
The
knows?
Osmonds.
Oh, we're still doing Osmonds,
there was no pet rocks in this.
By the way, Tim, did you tell everyone what day it is we're recording this? I'm sure it was addressed, right?
John did.
It's the happiest day of the year for Tim Hamilton.
It is not. I make fun of Hitler.
And tomorrow's Tim's birthday. So isn't
God.
it funny that, like,
why were you?
Isn't it funny that their birthdays
They're
are like one
connected.
day after each other? I'm telling you. Let me tell you what else.
It's weird too because
according to the stars, the relationship between Taurus and Taurus is something to cherish and hold on to, only if they are not both too stubborn and they're intent to wait for the person to make the first move. Adolf, it's okay. Go and invade the Sudetenland. It's all right. I'm here for you, Adolf. Nice boots.
That was a plot point of this episode. Unfortunately.
The boots.
If they could open up to each other and to their neutral need for change, this is a relationship both of them would find extraordinary.
The jokes on the show.
Adolf and Timmy.
I'm switching subjects.
The jokes in
the show. The jokes in the show didn't get any better, George, because YouTube showed me a clip from an episode that wasn't aired. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
But Hitler and his neighbor. What's his neighbor's name?
Arnie.
Mr. Goldstein.
Arnie, for some reason, they had to sleep on the couch together for some contrived reason. And Arnie, of course, he's eating dill pickles in bed, and he drops them, and he's looking for them under the covers, and they both stop and look, and Hitler goes, "Arnie, that's not a pickle." That was
I
can't believe it.
As frequently happens to me on the show, I have no idea if Tim is telling the truth or not.
Well, then Arnie rolled over.
Yeah.
And they started to go to sleep, and Arnie whispers, that day, I'm sure that was a pickle. That wasn't a pickle. Then he took out a pad, and he started writing down a story about Hitler's pickle.
That's good, Tim.
Became a famous book.
Yeah.
George has no idea. I'm telling the truth.
It was a pop-up book.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Ron
He called
DeSantis,
us a very hungry
Ron
caterpillar.
DeSantis is having none of it. They got yanked from school libraries too, although maybe not.
Yeah.
No, I think DeSantis would be okay with that.
Because it's about a Nazi. Yeah, exactly.
He's conflicted.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have no letters.
That's shocking.
Listen to SETI BIMCO and all the places you find your podcast. It is everywhere. I don't have to name them all. You can send us an email at SETIBIMCO with an E @gmail.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Mastodon. Twitter. Twitter's still falling apart. His rocket exploded today. And,
yeah.
And
no, actually,
anyway.
we actually mean like a rocket that he sent into space.
Also, his other
blew
rocket
up today,
exploded.
but we don't know. I don't want to know about the other rocket.
It explodes every day. You can't control it.
I don't want to know. It's almost as terrifying as thinking about 3-time Tony Award winner Patti LuPone.
Or Patti LaBelle, even.
Or Patti LaBelle, even.
I'm jumping in on the jokes. I don't even get what you're talking about because I missed most of the episodes sleeping.
We made jokes about Mel Gibson. I don't know about him.
Didn't miss anything. I'm telling you.
All right. Well, we're glad you woke up at the end.
Yeah,
Me
we're
too.
going to take off now.
If I didn't wake up, eventually I would have decomposed.
You would have.
I hate when that
My
happens.
cats would have eaten my face.
You sleepwalk. You were knocking He-Man figures off
Oh,
the wall.
my precious He-Man figures. Oh, no.
The odd thing is you sleepwalk with a hat and a shirt, but no pants. I don't know what's going on.
I never wear pants.
I hope you didn't damage the Hallmark ornaments.
No, they're safely packed away until next season. But yeah, I never wear pants. I Donald Duck it in my house. Why should I?
All right.
Keep it free and easy like an unfurnished basement.
Between Elon Musk's rocket exploding every day and George O'Connor Donald Ducking it all the time, I think I might need a drink.
We'll say El Wiedersehen.
Oh. Auf Wiedersehen until next week when we watch The Werewolf
Goodbye.
and the Yeti.
Bye,
everybody.
Happy
Bye,
birthday,
everyone.
Tim.
This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line, it's a party line.
All right. There. All right. There.